want to ask you a question. When did running your business start feeling so heavy? Not busy. Busy is part of running a business. I mean, heavy. Heavy in the sense that even when you're not working, your brain still is. You're making dinner, but thinking about tomorrow's content. You're watching television, but remembering an email that you forgot to send. You're out with friends, but wondering whether you've followed up with that potential client. You're laying in bed and suddenly remembering the invoice you meant to chase. It's exhausting. And yet so many women assume that's just what running a successful business actually looks like. I don't think it is. In fact, I think we've accidentally built businesses that rely far too much on us. And I know that because I built one. When I first started my business, I genuinely believed the success meant making myself more available. If I wanted more clients, I needed to create more content. If I wanted more visibility, I needed to spend more time online. If I wanted more opportunities, I needed to network more. If I wanted my business to grow, then I simply needed to give it more of me. And on the surface, that sounds logical. But over time, something changed. Every improvement I made seemed to create another layer of responsibility. Every new client created a new process. Every new platform created another expectation. Every opportunity created another thing to remember. And without realizing it, I wasn't building a business anymore. I was building a job with an incredibly demanding boss. And the boss was me. Now, I think that's where so many women find themselves right now. Not because they've done anything wrong, but because they've built a business one sensible decision at a time. You say yes to another client because it's a good opportunity. You create another service because people ask for it. You open another social media platform because everyone says you should. You promise faster replies because you care. You personalize everything because you want people to feel looked after. And individually, all of those decisions make perfect sense. Collectively, well, they create something that slowly becomes impossible for you to carry. And one of the biggest shifts I've had over the last year has been realizing that growth isn't just about adding more layers and more things. Sometimes growth is about removing pressure. And that's a very different way of thinking. We've been taught to ask questions like, how do I reach more people? Or how do I sell more? How do I create more content? How do I become more visible? They're not bad questions, but I've started looking at different ones. Things like, how do I stop my business depending on me for absolutely everything? Because that's where the pressure lives for me. Not the work itself, but in the dependency. And if your business only works because you're constantly remembering everything, well, in time, that's going to become exhausting. If every lead depends on you remembering who to contact, it's exhausting. If every piece of content starts with a blank screen, that's exhausting. If every client journey is being recreated from scratch, guess what? It's exhausting. The problem isn't that you're not capable. The problem is that you've become the entire operating system of your business. Everything flows through you, everything waits for you, everything depends on you. And eventually, your capacity becomes the ceiling for your business. And that's the moment I think many women hit without even recognizing it. They don't need another productivity course. They don't need to wake up and be in the office at 5 a.m. They don't need to color code their diary. They need support, real operational support. Not support that creates more admin, support that quietly removes it. I'll give you a really practical example. For years, networking felt like another task on my to-do list. I knew relationships mattered. I knew LinkedIn was important. I knew I should be connecting with people. But the whole process relied on me remembering everything, who I'd connected with, who I'd messaged, who had replied, who I should follow up with, who looked like a great fit on the surface. Then life would get busy. I'd leave it for a week, then another week, then I'd feel guilty, then I'd start again. It wasn't difficult, but it was mentally heavy. And that is why I built Connection Scout. Not because I wanted another piece of software, but because I wanted to remove some pressure. Now, Connection Scout isn't about sending automated spam messages or pretending relationships can be automated. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's designed to make human relationship building easier. It helps you identify the right people for your offer. It helps you recognize where those relationship opportunities are. And it helps you keep track of your conversations. It creates consistency without creating more mental pressure. Instead of wondering every morning where your next conversation should come from, you already know. Instead of relying on memory, you rely on a system. And that changes how the business feels. And that's the part that people often overlook. We're very good at measuring business performance, revenue, leads, followers, sales, but we rarely measure how the business feels to run. And I think we should. Because if every day feels stressful, or every evening you feel unfinished, if every weekend gets interrupted, then your mind never truly switches off. The business is asking too much of you. And I don't think success should feel like constant survival. I think success should create more capacity. One of the reasons this has been so front of mind for me is because of the week I've just had. I've spent days outside working on the farm, building fencing, creating new spaces for the horses, restoring chicken runs, getting ready for my ducks to move to their new homes. I've been surrounded by friends. We've been playing music, singing, laughing, dancing, eating outside. And through all of that, my business kept moving. Not because I was checking my laptop every 10 minutes, but because the systems were already doing their job. The content was recorded, the blogs were written, the posts were scheduled, the relationships were being managed. Literally everything of my work had already been done. Now, that didn't happen by accident. It happened because I deliberately stopped asking, how can I do or be more? And I started asking, how can my business carry more of this instead of me? And that's a very different question. I think it's one every business owner should ask themselves. Because the goal isn't simply to build a successful business. The goal is to build one that still leaves room for you to live your life. Whether that's horses, children, travel, reading, gardening, walking the dog, Sunday lunch with your family, little cats appearing on the screen. Maybe it's simply sitting in the garden with a cup of tea without feeling guilty. Whatever your version looks like, it's valid because it matters to you. Your business should make that possible for you, not make it harder. So I'd encourage you to think about one thing today. Where is your business relying on your memory instead of a system? Because every answer to that question is an opportunity to make your business lighter. And lighter businesses often form the strongest foundations and go on to be more sustainable for the duration. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd love you to subscribe to my channel because every week we're exploring practical, thoughtful ways to build a business that supports your life instead of consuming it. And if you're curious about how Connection Scout can help you build genuine business relationships without carrying the entire process yourself, well, you'll find more information in the description with this video, or you can reach out and send me a message. Now, until next time, I want you just to remember this. A successful business does not need more of you. It needs to depend on you a little less.